Hello, folks. Welcome to today's session. I'm pleased to present this topic of enterprise-grade protection with OpenShift virtualization and Cohesity. I am pleased to be here with my colleague Rene Carlisle, who's a product manager at Cohesity, and Alan Cowles, who's a good friend and partner over at Red Hat. I'm Shishir Mishra. I'm one of the product managers at Cohesity as well. And since we enjoy our partnership so much, you'll see Rene and I sporting Red Hat backgrounds for today's session. With that said, what do we have for you? We have a welcome, so welcome again. We'll have Alan help us sort of take in the OpenShift virtualization landscape. Then we'll talk a little bit about Cohesity as a company, how we support the protection of OpenShift resources. And within Cohesity, we have two separate offerings around data protect and net backup. We'll take a closer look at what each of those adds to OpenShift. And then we'll do a demo of net backup's capabilities in this area. And we'll finally talk a little bit about the resources that are available to you. So with that said, I'd like to welcome Alan over to take us through the overview of OpenShift virtualization. Alan, over to you.
Thank you, Shishir. As Shishir said, my name's Alan Cowles. I'm here from Red Hat, and I'm going to take a few minutes of your time here to give you a 10,000-foot view of Red Hat OpenShift virtualization. So one thing to understand with Red Hat OpenShift virtualization is while a lot of people are currently being newly exposed to this technology, it's actually been around for quite a long time. If you look at the history on this timeline here, you'll see that OpenShift virtualization is based on KVM, robust open source hypervisor introduced to the Linux kernel back in 2007. As the product advanced, you can see several important steps along the timeline from when Red Hat joined the OpenStack Foundation, which was also KVM based, the KubeVirt project, which first came out bringing virtualization to Kubernetes in 2016, so over a decade ago, or almost a decade ago, to the actual introduction of OpenShift virtualization 5 years ago. And as we developed the product, the initial messaging was on migrating away from other hypervisors, but now we can focus on both migration and modernization of your virtualization-based workloads. And now, with our newest announcement in 2025, we introduced OpenShift Virtualization Engine to help support those people that just want to focus on their virtualized workloads and not their containerization. So, talking about the features available in OpenShift virtualization, you'll see that it pretty well covers any of the expectations you have for a hypervisor. The fact that it is built into OpenShift delivers a unified platform so that you can run virtual machines and containers side by side. You have the same set of consistent tools to help manage your virtual machines, your containers, all the APIs from one management point in the OpenShift console. Again, the performance, the stability that is here is based on the stability you find in Linux, in KVM, and in QEMU. And there's a very healthy open source community supporting the project, with the KubeVirt project being a top 10 CNCF project with over 200 contributing companies at this point. There's a diverse ecosystem of Red Hat and supportable partners like Cohesity here today that help provide additional functionality and integration for the product. OpenShift virtualization is an included feature at all levels of OpenShift subscriptions. So depending on what you need for your environment, it's always available. Several of the versions include your Red Hat Enterprise Linux guest entitlements. So if your infrastructure is a majority of Red Hat Enterprise Linux guests, you don't have to worry about subscribing those. It's automatically taken care of from you. And just because we're a Linux company doesn't mean that's all you get. We also support Microsoft Windows virtual machines through the Microsoft SVVP program. We also have a set of tools, as I mentioned earlier, for migration that make it very easy to migrate from other hypervisors into OpenShift virtualization. And there are a series of virtualization admin focused trainings to help you understand your investment in this new technology. Truly, in my opinion, the best thing about OpenShift is that OpenShift is the same everywhere. Whether you're in your local data center or you're in any one of the major clouds, you get the same experience across your entire infrastructure. And with that, I'm going to hand back to Shashir. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Alan. As technology partners, we've been really thrilled to see the capabilities that OpenShift brings to the table, but your taking the audience through that was really helpful. So, as you said, we'll now get into a little bit of what Cohesity does as a company. And it's with immense pleasure that I can share some of these statistics with you. We are the leader in AI-powered data security. We've had a strong presence on our own in the Gartner Magic Quadrant. And as I'll talk about over the course of this slide, our joint and offering NetBackup had a pretty long run in the Gartner Magic Quadrant by itself. In fact, almost unbroken since the very first one. And the two sort of product lines on the Cohesity side and what NetBackup brought to the table through our Veritas sort of partnership and merger and the outcome of that. We have over 1,600 patents that make us absolutely strong in the area of data management and data security. The two offerings together have a global scale encompassing over 60 countries. Between the two of us, we protect over 100 exabytes of data, which is simply an incredible number. Some of our competition is not even 1/100th of that, if I may say so. And the joint scale is also immense. We have over 12,000 customers, over 3,000 partners, and our products are really deployed in some of the most complex and challenging environments. Over 85% of the Fortune 100 and over 70% of the Global 500 have chosen to repose their faith in us, which is a true reflection of what we bring to the table. And our joint R&D investment is also pretty large and a key strength for us. That said, what do we do as a company? Our mission is simple: to protect, secure, and provide insights into the world's data. At the 100 plus exabyte scale, we are getting close to the world's data. And the largest organizations, as I indicated just on the previous slide, do rely on us for their resilience. What do we do in this space, right? So we sort of classify our offerings along three broad categories: data protection, security, and insights. When it comes to protection, we are ready and able to protect your data in all forms, VMs, containers, databases, what have you. The data could reside anywhere, could be on-prem, any of the big public clouds in various SaaS offerings. And we give you a broad array of deployment architectures within the cloud as scale out, scale up software, so on and so forth. Protection by itself, as everyone in the audience probably knows, is insufficient in this day and age. So security becomes a key facet as well. And we bring strong capabilities around threat protection, being able to automate cyber recovery across all data types, across large scales, being able to help you monitor your security posture so that you can minimize your risks, and being able to integrate with the key CMs or XDR vendors out there to give you some peace of mind about your enterprise data. Over and above these aspects, mining your data for insights in this age of Gen AI is an obvious no-brainer for folks. Everyone wants to use their data for all possible scenarios. So in that, we have different ways of being able to support you. You can choose to use our admins and admin assistants as sort of your co-pilot assistants to help you manage your data at scale. We have industry-leading search and summarization through what we call, what the industry calls retrieval augmented generation. It's a very interesting capability that we'd love to talk about another time. And we have chosen to partner with the best of breed. So we'll let you support, we will let you bring in your own models of choice, your platforms, and so on. So a lot of key innovations here as well. And all of these capabilities reside on a modern data platform, which was designed from the ground up to unify data management and all these other use cases, and is built to be secure and immutable from the get-go. That said, we've talked about Red Hat, we have talked about Cohesity. How do we come together and we support our customers? So in the context of today's conversation, customers are looking for alternatives in their virtualization choices. At the same time, for a given platform, developers would prefer something that's scalable and modern to let them take their applications wherever possible. Security is a no-brainer. It absolutely has to be a part of the ecosystem. And beyond the immediate security aspect itself, being able to manage cyber resilience, being able to protect your data, store it in a secure way, and then recover wherever and whenever you need to, all that is essentially table stakes at this point. So with this problem statement in mind, Red Hat, as the world's leading provider of enterprise open source solutions, and Cohesity as the leader in AI-powered data security, are working very closely to solve the problems of providing the platform and then also being able to secure it in a comprehensive way. So what does Cohesity enable in the area of OpenShift protection? That's what we'll take a look at now. Both Cohesity Data Protect and Net Backup are optimized for large performance requirements and scale requirements. I've already talked about the largest deployments that we have. So that's proof enough of our strengths there. Our security and resilience capabilities help enterprises mitigate their risk. Our automation and API first approach and all the other capabilities that are built into the platform lower the total cost of ownership. You spend less time getting deployed, you spend less resources running everything. Our insights help you govern things in a quick way. So all in all, your manageability is taken care of. And given our security and resilience capabilities, we really help you strengthen your ransomware posture. In terms of what the stack looks like, OpenShift obviously caters to container and VM use cases. Cohesity and OpenShift can coexist in that environment, and you can choose to deploy and protect your resources across private cloud, public cloud, hybrid cloud, all kinds of deployment scenarios. Both OpenShift and Cohesity are built on a modern stack, which brings the latest and greatest technological capabilities to the fore. So in particular, looking at Kubernetes data protection, um, both NetBackup and Data Protect provide these key sort of facets. We make use of native tools, whatever applies specifically to the system. We know that every platform has its own strengths and weaknesses, so adopting a one size fit all approach doesn't quite work. So we make use of the platform's key capabilities. At the same time, we don't tie ourselves to very specific hardware or storage choices. We want to enable our customers and OpenShift customers in being able to do what they would prefer. So we aim to be as agnostic as possible. We do want to support customers in taking an application view of the world. Um, Looking at things purely from a VM or containers perspective could be a more infrastructure focused approach, but at the end user is more interested in how their application is protected and is resilient. So that's what we look at as well. Ransomware, of course, is something that's a nightmare for folks, unfortunately, but we have done our best to help solve that problem for our unified customers. And the end result of all this is, of course, backup and recovery that's as simple to use and maintain and observe as possible, taking as little or management overhead as can be the case. So that's an overview of what we offer on both sides. We'll now take a slightly deeper look at what Data Protect does. So this is for folks who want to sort of take a peek under the covers, get a sense of how the product works. So in this configuration, you can see that you have OpenShift at the bottom left with the master nodes governing the entire environment. You have Data Protect and the Data Cloud platform sort of communicating with the master nodes over the API process. And when you configure the source protection, then what we do is we deploy a daemon set of what we call the Cohesity data mover. And we have represented Velero here, but essentially we are using Red Hat's OADP operator to enable us to capture the metadata state of the environment. So as you can see in the picture, the metadata itself is backed up or restored through OADP via Velero. And the data in containers and VMs is processed through the Cohesity data mover. And that's obviously deployed in a Cohesity namespace across the worker nodes. So that looks great from an architecture perspective, but what about our feature set and how does that relate to OpenShift virtualization? So I'm absolutely excited to share that on the left side is information about the features that came out earlier in the year. We were pleased to showcase some of these at the Red Hat Summit. And as you can see, we have support. We started with namespace level protection of VMs and support for file mode volumes. The next phase was adding support for block mode volumes and supporting backups with CSI snapshots for the volume selections. Namespace level protection is obviously a basic requirement, but people want more flexibility than being able to capture everything in one shot. So being able to customize the selection is something that we were asked to look at, and that's something that we've been able to provide as well. So you can choose which particular VMs you want to back up, and then from the backed up set, you can then recover the VMs of your choice. And the last line, as I mentioned, is related to OADP for the metadata aspect of the estate. What's out fresh from the oven essentially is tag-based protection. So you can choose to select your VMs by the tags they are associated with, giving you even more control over what you can protect from your estate. And the final requirement that we have just addressed is around IPv6 support. A lot of customers with very large deployments don't have enough IPv4 addresses, or they would prefer to be more forward-looking with their IPv6 deployments. So we have qualified and supported our protection mechanisms in the IPv6 space. And that brings me to the net backup portion of the session today. So I'd like to welcome Renee to take us through the next few aspects.
Thank you so much, Shashir. It is great to be with all of you today. As you can see, Cohesity has a lot of tools in our tool shed. We can handle any customer environment that we need to. We're very happy to have this partnership with Red Hat, probably our largest partnership that we have in the industry. So I just wanted to kind of walk you through a little bit of maybe some of the small differences between the Data Protect and the Kubernetes architecture. This is the net backup for Kubernetes and OpenShift architecture. As you can see across Cohesity, our goal is to have as minimal a footprint as possible within the cluster itself to minimize any impact on the environment, but also give you the broadest range of support for any storage you want to use, any infrastructure you want to use. So with net backup, there's just two components that get dropped into the cluster. It's all Kubernetes native, so we use Helm-based deployments to be able to move these components into the cluster. We have a Kubernetes operator, and that facilitates all the communication between your infrastructure and the cluster itself. And then we have an elastic data mover pod. This is spun all the way down when there's not data being moved in for backup or restore. And then as we need to expand that for better performance, then we will bring spin up new resources for the data mover to move data in and out of the environment. And like I said, that's all Helm-based. From the infrastructure perspective, broad range of support. So any infrastructure that you want to use in your environment, whether that is virtual machine based or one of our appliances or a build your own system, we can support any storage target that you want to use for storing your backup data, whether that be a cloud, whether that be an appliance, whether that be disk storage, including SpanFS Cohesity storage, if it's tape. You can use whatever you want, and you can also tier that. So we automate the tiering of that data, and we'll show all that to you in the demo. And then we present that all to you through a UI, whether that is a net backup UI, or we will be also having the Helios UI next month, so you can manage your whole global estate. We just have the Cohesity UI presentation layer to manage that. So fairly simple components in the environment. All right, I just want to touch on a few key features. As you can see, there are a lot of feature options for you in your OpenShift and OpenShift virtualization environment with NetBackup. Most of these I'm going to show you in the demo, so I won't read this slide to you. There's a lot here. As Shashir mentioned, we're ransomware resilient, so all of the Cohesity ransomware solutions can be applied to these workloads, fully role-based access control enabled. You can do application consistent snapshots. So if you are running databases within your namespace, we can also do some pre and post processing to be able to quiesce those databases. All CSI snapshot enabled, so you can use whatever storage you want under the covers for your persistent volumes. You can set up dedicated backup networks. You can do block storage, you can use file storage, you can use a mix of those. Really, really resilient as far as what you want your infrastructure set up and to look like. All right, with that, let's go ahead and we're going to just kind of go into a demo for you so that we can get you these slides and actually show you the product and some of the things that you can do here. So go in here real quick. Just want to start with sharing. I'm sure you're familiar with this, the Red Hat OpenShift console. If you come in here, you can see that we have some namespaces and we have some virtual machines in our namespace. So we're going to come in here. We're going to look at this specific namespace. It's got 2 virtual machines in it. So we have things out here ready to protect, ready to recover. I also want to kind of show in here, if you look at what's available for net backup, as I talked about, we have that elastic data mover to really minimize the impact of any operations on your cluster. And we'll talk about how you can even fine tune that more. But if we look here and we're in our net backup namespace or net backup project, you can see there's really not much running because we're not doing anything right now. So it makes it nice and simple. So we're not consuming resources when we don't need to consume resources. So we're going to pop over into the net backup console at this point. All right, so we're just in our main dashboard view of our net backup console, and we want to start looking at those resources and what we can do and how would we protect those, what can we recover, how do we get an individual virtual machine restore back. So if we look over here on our Kubernetes workloads, you can see all the namespaces that we have available that we can run protection on, and we're focused on this guy here that we just saw in the Red Hat console that has a couple of VMs in it. So we're going to focus on that namespace. We also can see all of our Kubernetes clusters out here. So you can have multiple clusters. We treat them all as one environment. That makes it really easy for you to even move things between clusters. So we'll show you that you can even take a restore and restore it from one cluster to another if you want to do that. So that is what you'll see there. All right. Another thing that you want to be aware of that, as I said, we could further protect your environment. If you go over here to Kubernetes settings, one of the things that we have is resource limits. This allows you to even further protect your cluster. So you can actually limit how many backup jobs hit the cluster at once, or how many snapshot jobs hit the cluster at once. And so you can change these limits. So if you have some clusters that have a little bit more resources than others, and you want to lower that down, you can do that. So gives you even more options to protect your infrastructure. All right. Now, if we're going to set up backups in the environment, one of the things that we have is this concept of intelligent groups. Our intelligent groups allow you to really set up just your parameters of how you want to protect your infrastructure. And then once those parameters are set, we will dynamically discover any new virtual machines, any new namespaces that come online. And if that namespace or virtual machine matches the parameters, then we allow you to just match it to an existing policy or intelligent group, and we will automatically start backing that up. So as you add new virtual machines, as you add new namespaces, you don't have to worry that your backups are going to be missed because something happened and you didn't, contact your Kubernetes admin, your OpenShift team. They didn't contact you to set it back up. That just happens all dynamically on the fly. One of the nice things about that I'll point out too is Alan mentioned this great opportunity to be able to migrate. Red Hat gives you the ability to migrate off other hypervisors into OpenShift virtualization. If you have the intelligent group set up, we will automatically detect that those machines came in and were migrated in, so we can automatically start picking them up and recovering them. So if we wanted to, we're going to use this one, but if I wanted to set that up, I would go in here and I would just name this. I'll just give it a test name. You would go in here and add the clusters. You can add all the clusters. You can limit it to certain clusters if you want. And then we're going to come in here and we can say we want to just have all namespaces on those clusters, Or we can further refine that, and we can say we just want to do all resource kinds. We want to do that with a label, so you can add a label. So as you are creating namespaces, if you want to throw a label on that or a label on assets within that namespace, you can use a label condition. One thing we recently added that's really nice is we can say just virtual machines. So if that namespace just has an OpenShift virtualization machine in it, we will only identify those namespaces and just protect those. We also added for persistent volume. So if you want to only protect namespaces with data in it, those are all options for you. So pretty powerful there for being able to do intelligent policies. All right, so you have that, and then we're going to go into another option that you have to really further define what your parameters are to make sure you meet your SLAs is we have something called storage lifecycle policies. So if you look at this, this is the opportunity to tier that storage like I talked about. So you have the ability to set up, even for different environments, what do we want our parameters to be. We can take a snapshot and we can keep the snapshot for a certain length of time and manage that independently. So if you have some really critical machines and you want to be able to just roll snapshots back in case something has a failure and you need to get that data back super quickly, we don't even move data. We can just roll it right back from a snapshot. Or you can, and then we can do a backup from that snapshot. So if you want that data off-site, you want to put that off to some off-cluster storage, we can do that to tape or immutable storage or cloud or wherever you want that to be. So we can do a backup from snapshot, and we can manage that retention separately. And you can even tier from there. So maybe you have a requirement that says, hey, we need a third copy that goes to a completely separate data center. We have what we call our auto image replication, and you can replicate that to a completely separate domain, separate data center. Or maybe that third copy has to be really locked down tight for ransomware, and you want to put that over to immutable storage, or you have requirements to get that off to the cloud. Really flexible on depending on what your life cycles are, what your requirements are for your environment, and that can be tailored to, hey, we want our production to be different than we want our test. Full flexibility to set that all up. So that's our storage lifecycle policies. Once you have the intelligent policies and the storage lifecycle policies set up, you can come in here and you just create a policy. We've got a Kubernetes VM policy all set up right now. Here's your attributes. So you can see we're using our storage lifecycle policy for this. You can set up things like client-side deduplication, further optimization. So we dedupe from the cluster all the way through the stack, all the way out to the storage if you're using deduplication storage. So that really optimizes even your network throughput and how long those backups take, because we're not even moving data off the cluster if we already have it in our deduplication target. So we got some parameters here. You can set up a schedule. So we just have a full backup. You can set up windows if you want certain windows. We don't have one right now because we're just going to do ad hoc backups, but you can set up windows in the environment so that at certain times of the day and certain days of the week, your backups will automatically kick off. If you want to set up full schedules, quarterly schedules, incremental with different types of parameters, you can set all those up and we will run those as you have defined them. Okay, and then we tell it what we want to back up. So we are going to use that intelligent plan here, but you can also set up different parameters. So if we wanted to add, you can go by namespace. I'm going to change that. You can add an intelligent group. So you can select either a new intelligent group or an existing one. And then you can also further define that by specific resources and labels. So if you want to include specific items or exclude specific items, you can do that. Now we have granular recovery options as well. So I will say most customers, from a best practice perspective, gather everything because we dedupe it on the back end anyway. It's already pretty optimized, and then just use granular recovery to recover that. But if you have a specific use case, like we want to exclude persistent volumes from the backup, for example, or we only want to include persistent volumes, or whatever those specific characteristics are, you can set that up, and you can base that either by telling us specifically what you want to include or exclude, or we can even do that by labels. So if you throw labels on, say, your persistent volumes, we can pick up a label and be able to protect that. So lots of flexibility there for how you want to set that up. All right, so that is, now we've got everything set up. So then we could kick off a backup. So if we're gonna come up here and we're gonna run our Kubernetes VM backup and come over here, again, it can run off a schedule, but you can also do a manual backup. You can also manage permissions. So if you wanna further refine role-based access control to who has access to do any of these capabilities, you can do that. But for us, we're gonna run a manual backup. We're gonna say backup everything with a full backup. And that's going to kick it off. And then if we go over here to our activity monitor, which shows us everything, we can see that a backup has started running. This backup is going to kick that snapshot job off first. And then after that snapshot is taken, then it's going to start moving data around off to our target storage. So we'll see that kick off here in just a second. Here we got our snapshots kicking off. And then as we start our backup from snapshots, that's when you're going to start seeing data movers kick off to be able to start moving that data faster. So as soon as that kicks off, we'll show you how we'll start spinning up those pods, and you can see data moving very quickly out of that. So we're going to come over to our backup windows again, and we'll be on here on the pod. So as soon as we start seeing those backups kick off, then you'll start seeing data mover pods start spinning up in here. Those pods will spin up as many as we need to. By default, we will spin up one pod for every persistent volume plus one pod for the namespace itself. As that data is moved out because the backup is done or the recovery is done, it's finished moving data, then those pods will spin back down and it'll go back to here, and those pods will go away so that we're not consuming any resources. So it is that elastic dynamic data movement for that. All right, those are just about ready to kick off here. There we go. Now you'll start seeing some data mover pods spinning back up. So you see we have a data mover pod right here that's spinning, and as we need more, we'll spin more up. And then they'll go away as we don't need them anymore. All right. Okay, so now backups are going. So now we want to look at recovery. So what options do we have for recovery? So for our recovery, we're going to go back to our Kubernetes workloads, and we have our different namespaces that we have. And so this is the one that we were looking at, that we've been running backups on. So you come over here and we'll go to recovery points, and we'll see the recovery options. So all the backups that we've taken will have recovery points. You can see on this one that we ran earlier today, we've got 2 copies because we have a snapshot copy that finished, and then we did our backup from snapshot. So that storage lifecycle policy, remember that tiering that allowed us to do multiple copies. So we could recover either from the snapshot and roll things back, or we could recover right here from the backup from snapshot. So there's different options that you have. We can restore the entire namespace, or you can see that we can restore an individual virtual machine. Now, this is in beta right now, just so you know, but our release is coming out next month. So you can play with it in beta for the next few weeks, and then it will go GA in just a few weeks here and be able to restore just the individual virtual machines without having to restore the entire namespace. Just to give you some ideas of the different types of recoveries that you can do, I'm just going to pop into the restore namespace real quick and show you what you can do from the namespace level. From here, you can restore to the original namespace, or you can use an alternate namespace. When I talked about the fact that we have multiple clusters in here and you can restore from one cluster to another, it's just an alternate destination for us. So you can just select the cluster that you want to restore from. We show you all the clusters that we're managing, and you can just pick whichever cluster you want to restore that back to. I'm going to use just set up an alternate namespace right here. I'm just going to say test EAGOCP. I'll just leave it for that for right now, just to kind of give you some parameters. So at the namespace level, we can select resources, so you can restore all the resources, or you can recover selected resource types. List of all the resource types that we have, so you can choose some granular resource types if you want to. We also have the ability to restore all the data in the persistent volumes, or you can recover just individual ones. So we give you all the data volumes that are out there on the system, and you can restore just individual persistent volumes with or without their claim if you need that. So gives you a lot of flexibility there. You can, even if you have specific applications that require things to come up in a non-standard order, you can change that. So those are your options there from a namespace level. All right. And then the other option we have here is we're going to be able to restore from the backup. You can restore individual virtual machines. So again, you have the ability to go back to the original namespace. Now, Kubernetes does not handle overwrite really well, so there can be some challenges there. So you want to make sure if you go back to the original namespace, you want to be able to make sure that that original VM or namespace is not there, depending on what you're recovering. For this, we're going to do an alternate namespace. Nope. I always forget you can't use capitals there. So we protect you even from yourself if you type something in that you shouldn't type in. And from here, we can do all virtual machines, so you can recover everything back, or you can just do specific virtual machines. So if you want to just grab one, you can just grab one virtual machine. So that's that individual VM restore. And then we're going to go through here and we're going to just clarify for everything. You can check everything that you've done and see and make sure that those are what you want to do. And then we can kick the restore off. We also have a flag here. There can be a challenge if your system is not reusing MAC or dynamically addressing MACs. So if you have a problem where you could have a MAC conflict, we have the ability here to be able to clear the virtual machine MAC address during the restore. We select that by default so that we dynamically just recreate that MAC address for you when you're doing the restore. If that's not an issue in your environment because of dynamic creation, you can always take that off. All right, I'm going to go back here to our activity monitor, and we can see that we've got a restore out here. So we'll just take a quick look at that. Go into the details here, and I'm going to pop this out so we can see it a little bit easier. All right. And from here, we can see that we started a virtual machine restore here. It tells us the restore target cluster name, what we did here. We have virtual machines selected for restore, so it shows you all the virtual machines that we decided to restore here. We cleared the virtual machine address. We started the virtual machine restore. And then we can see that it was successfully completed. All right. So that gives you a sense of what you can do from a backup restore, individual VM. So as I said, we try to make that as simple and easily as we can, very similar to other workloads that you would protect, to guide you through that. All right, so that is our demo that we have. The other thing we've done for you is we have from Cohesity a whole bunch of extra resources that we've made available. So those are available in the resource tab for you in the window. So if you have any questions or want to see additional demos or white papers or blog posts, the fact that we're certified with OpenShift for OpenShift virtualization, you can see all those resources in the sidebar, and you can click on any of those. You have access to all those to learn more about our solution. So hopefully you'll find everything that you need there. You can always reach out to your teams for more information if you need to. But it's been a real pleasure being with you today. Thanks, Alana Shashir, for all the information that you shared. Cohesity is here, willing to help, hoping that we can help you with any needs that you have in your OpenShift virtualization environment. So thanks for spending time with us today.